To start the session, can I kindly request everyone to say sadhu?
Sadhu.
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 Sadhu. Sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Feeling like a water bubble. Suppose because that in the autumn, when it is raining and big raindrops are falling, water bubble arises and bursts on the surface of the water. A man with good eyesight would inspect it, ponder it, and carefully investigate it, and it would appear to him to be void, hollow, and insubstantial. For what substance would there be in a water bubble? So too, because whatever kind of feeling there is, whether past, future, or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, a bhikkhu inspects it, ponders it, carefully investigates it, and it would appear to him to be void, hollow, insubstantial. For what substance could there be in feeling? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear noble friends, after about a month, we are meeting again for this weekly mindfulness session, where we practice for 1.5 hours and we start our Dhamma talk and Dhamma discussion, which we call supportive factors. So for the listening supportive factor, which we are doing now, we have selected this discourse called Pena Pindupama Sutta, which is a form sutta where the Blessed One is analyzing the physical and mental processes of human beings and related to few similes, few examples. So the physical and mental processes is discussing number one, form. The second one is the feelings. And then we are yet to open the topics of perception, mental volitions, and consciousness. So we have discussed the form, and in form, what Blessed One says is the same thing. It is void, hollow, and insubstantial. There is no substance in it. It is not like a water bubble, but he says form is like a foam, where in the river, this foam gets accumulated and then it bursts off in lumps. And the body is like that. And therefore, if someone closely investigates the body, it will appear to be like that lump of foam, and therefore it is void, hollow, and insubstantial. And we have applied that to our practice. And some people, when they take their attention to the body, it appears to them that they have this arising and passing away phenomena, which is like a lump of foam. And for you to get there, you will have to simply have perfect mindfulness, 100% mindfulness, and unwavering mindfulness, and attention to the body. Then your mind becomes sharper. Such a sharper mind will be able to see what Buddha is saying and understand the simile the Buddha is giving regarding the form. And that is the physical process. And then he comes on to the mental process, where he's saying the same thing regarding feelings or sensations. And then we discussed these feelings in the two previous sessions we had, and we tried to understand bit more deeper meanings of these feelings. And if you remember, the feeling is the gateway to the mind. When you see or when you bring your attention to the body, you may have feelings, and those feelings will be the result of your either liking or disliking of the physical form. When you have a physical sensation which you don't agree, which you hate, which you dislike, and that becomes a painful feeling. But if there is any sensation which you agree, which you love, which you ponder, then it becomes a pleasant feeling. And what in the normal world we do is we try our level best to increase the pleasant feeling, and as much as possible keep away, if not destroy, the unpleasant feeling. So therefore, the world is not naturally, generally having the focus to the pleasantness, pleasant feeling. And when I say the world, it is not the rest of the people, it is the individual. Individual is the world. And when we take our personal way of behavior, that is exactly what we are doing. We are trying to maximize the pleasant feelings and get rid of unpleasant feeling as much as possible. So a group of such individual is called the rest of the world, and the rest of the world, the external world, is also having the same scenario. So, but Buddha says it is void, it is hollow, and it is insubstantial. So what we are doing in our practice is, after going through the body, when we get to this gateway to the mind, we are trying to test whether what the Buddha is saying is correct or wrong, or whether we will also be able to realize that this is a water bubble and there is nothing else. So in this, we have discussed in the previous session, there are three feelings, and not only the two feelings I just mentioned, there is one in between pleasant and unpleasant feeling or painful feeling, and that is called neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings, that we call in Pali adukkama sukha. So wherever you have boredom, sluggishness, uninterested nature, and that is a sign that you have this third one, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So therefore, the feelings in general, I'm not saying this is the only way, in general are three types, and these three things can also be categorized into two other categories: worldly feelings and spiritual feelings. So in the normal world, we have pleasant feelings and painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. And similarly, in the spiritual world, also we have the same three. So therefore, when you take in that way, we can categorize feelings into 6 categories: worldly 3, and spiritual 3. So this we have been discussing all this time the worldly feelings and the significance of feeling, because in the discourses there is a very great emphasis on feeling. In a discourse called Rooted Discourse, or we call it Kimmulaka Sutta, there the Blessed One is asking, upon what do they converge? Then he himself says they converge upon feelings. So therefore, if there is any phenomena, that phenomena will connect or join or link up with the feelings. So anything that you experience can be communicated only through feelings. So therefore, feelings is having a very great significance in the practice. And also this feeling is very important when we take the dependent origination. In the dependent origination, we know there are few stages. In those stages, we know it says ignorance is leading to actions or the mental volitions, and mental volition is leading to consciousness. Consciousness is leading to name and form. Name and form is leading to six sense bases, and six sense bases are leading to contact. Contact is leading to feelings or sensation, which lead to desire or the craving. So therefore, in the dependent origination also, in other words, Paticca Samuppada also, it's an important juncture where people will either choose craving or they will, if they don't, from feeling, if they don't go for craving, and they will be opening up the path to liberation. They will be opening up the path to nirvana. They will be opening up the path for ultimate happiness. So therefore, feelings is an important juncture even in the dependent origination. So this is why, since it is a very important juncture, we are using the body scanning while practicing. And from the body scan, what we do is we bring our attention to the body. When we bring the attention to the body, we have a greater opportunity to observe the sensations that is arising in the body. And as a result, we will either experience pleasant feelings or unpleasant feelings, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. So that way, we will be able to quickly open up the path to nirvana. So also, when we take the four foundations of mindfulness, which is our Bible in sati or in mindfulness, even there is a separate section mentioned about feelings. And what the Blessed Ones ask us to do is just be mindful of the feeling. So this is the summary of what we have been discussing in the past two sessions. Now today I am going to talk a bit more about the worldly feelings and spiritual feelings, or in other words, a comparison of the worldly and spiritual feelings. So before I do that, all right, sorry about that. So what I was mentioning is that we have two types of feelings, which is mundane and spiritual feelings. So we are going to understand these two types of feelings. So when we consider spiritual and worldly feelings, it starts from the very, very fundamentals of spirituality. The fundamental of spirituality, in the sense, when we start the spiritual world, the basic point in the spiritual world is coming out of the sensuality and becoming or getting into charity, getting into charitable status or charitable situations. So in that scenario, sensuality becomes mundane, or sensuality becomes worldly, and spirituality becomes charity. So here what happens is, when you have some charity, that gives you some feeling which you don't get in the sensual world. And in the sensual world, what we basically know, what we basically observe is that satisfying our senses will be the only way that we will be going for happiness. So therefore, we don't engage in charity, and that is what is happening in mainly the Western world. Sometimes the Western world will not be able to fathom what is happening in the Eastern world, because Eastern world is so poor and they don't have anything to be given to the rest of the world. But if there is some issue, and they just give everything what they have. So therefore, it's a huge difference between the West and the East, where Western world is completely based on the sensuality, whereas spiritual or in the East, spirituality or the charity is a huge part. So in that, when you take it that way, the question is why this is happening. Why it is happening is because to the Western world, satisfying the five senses is the only way to be happy. Whereas in the East, they have some understanding. Instead of satisfying your own sensuality, and if someone is able to give something that they have very reasonably earned, very hard earned, either labor or whatever resources they have to someone else, they have observed, they have experienced higher, higher happiness, higher pleasantness. So therefore, they are always ready to give something to somebody else and touch the basis of the spirituality, touch the basis of spiritual happiness. So therefore, the sensuality becomes worldly happiness, and spirituality becomes the spirituality becomes the charitable happiness. So in that sense, worldly and spirituality is something that starts with this comparison, and spirituality starts with the charity. The happiness starts with charity. So although happiness starts with charity, spirituality starts with charity. The pleasant feeling starts with charity. That becomes mundane when you go higher up in the ladder. When you go higher up in the spirituality, what happens is you may go from charity to virtue, and when someone becomes virtuous, charity or giving dana becomes mundane, because all this is relative. And in charity, what happens is you give your resources, you give your wealth that you have to someone else. But in the case of virtue, instead of you giving something to somebody, what you are doing is, you, without doing anything, in virtuous situation, you will be simply you will be not doing anything, but without doing anything, you will be able to give more to the rest of the world. When you don't kill, virtue means you observe the precepts. So when you don't kill, when you don't steal, when you don't engage in sexual misconduct and so on, what happens is you give the freedom, you give the pleasantness, you give no fear to the rest of the world. When you are not killing, animals will not be afraid of you. When you are not killing, people will not be afraid that you will go and steal something from them. So therefore, virtue becomes higher giving than the charity, because there you give the rest of the world, you generate positive vibration of freedom, positive vibration of liberation from fear. So that therefore becomes a higher spiritual happiness. compared to charity. But again, virtue becomes a dwarf when it comes to choiceless awareness, or when it comes to mindfulness. In mindfulness, what we do is we give up everything. In mindfulness, we simply maintain choiceless awareness. So there will have so many things coming our way when we are observing our breath. There will have so many thoughts. There will have so many aches and so much of aches and pains. There will have so much of sounds that is disturbing us, but we simply be aware of it. We don't fight with anything. So if you are able to observe the breath, you observe the breath. But if you can't observe the breath, and if someone else is prominent, you simply observe that something else which is prominent. So therefore, you completely avoid choosing. When you completely avoid choosing, what you simply do is you give the freedom to yourself. And in virtue, you give the freedom to others, and you have to ensure you don't do anything. And here, you give the freedom to yourself without selecting, without choosing anything. If you choose, what happens is you are inflicting some sort of a friction to yourself. So when you simply avoid choosing, what you simply do is you don't crave for anything, you don't hate anything. So when this craving and hatred is gradually reduced, it becomes a huge, huge virtue. It's become a huge, huge charity, and that becomes a higher spiritual charity compared to virtue. So therefore, what we are doing in this group is that highest spiritual experience. In that highest spiritual experience is um, something that you will do um, without doing anything. It is a simple observation. But if you talk about the mundane world, if you want something in the mundane world, you will have to always do things willfully. Always you will have to choose. Therefore, there is no end in the mundane world. Willful actions and choosing mental volition is the main criteria that works in the mundane world. So if you go to a supermarket, just simply to buy a loaf of bread, which is a basic requirement for most of the people, how many types of breads are there in the shelf? And how many minutes are we spending there comparing these things? What ingredients are there? How many nuts are there? And what nutrition value is there? Whether it is worthwhile compared to the prices that is given, and all sorts of things we just simply keep selecting, keep checking. That is because my happiness in the mundane world is only by choosing. I'm just taking a very simple example of a loaf of bread. From there, you take anything where there is no choice in the mundane world. Only choice that you have in the mundane world is you can suffer as much as you want. That is available in abundance in the mundane. But so far as the spiritual world is concerned, especially mindfulness, because that is the highest spirituality, as I mentioned, choiceless, no willful action. You don't choose anything. Let anything come my way. I will be patient with it. I will accept it as much as possible. And that way, I increase my threshold of non-reaction. When you increase your threshold of non-reaction, what you simply develop in your mentality is happiness. You will be reacting only when you don't like whatever is available in that present moment. So when you accept the present moment, all what you have is the simple happiness. So therefore, in the mundane world, you will have so much of willful action, and in the spiritual world, unwillful action, giving lot of happiness. So in the mundane world, to get by willfully doing things, what we are simply doing is we are trying to satisfy our sense faculties as much as possible. The mundane world, there is nothing beyond sense faculty. It will be to keep your eye happy, keep your nose happy, keep your tongue happy, keep your ear happy, keep your nose happy, keep your body happy, keep your mind happy. So you try to satisfy your sense faculties in the mundane world. But whereas in the spiritual world, when we go to the temple or when you practice at home, we completely come out of this sensual world and we shut our eyes, go to a place where there is no sound, go to a place where there is no smell, no taste. You don't eat while doing your walking or while doing your sitting. You don't engage in daydreaming and things like that. So you simply move away from your sense faculties. And by moving away from your sense faculties, you realize that there is even a greater happiness there rather than satisfying the sense faculties. Although we have greater happiness when you don't satisfy your sense faculties, very few people are coming to the spiritual world because they are so much obsessed, they are so much intoxicated in satisfying their sense faculties. But if someone comes to the spiritual world and move away from the sense faculties, and then they realize what a beautiful, what a serene experience, sensation they will be able to enjoy in the spiritual world. That happens when you observe your breath. And if you can observe breath from the beginning to the end, both in breath and out breath, and in that way, when you bring your attention to the body, you simply move away from all the sense faculties. And moving away from the sense faculties in this manner, and I'm sure all of you have experienced that pleasantness, it becomes such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And that experience cannot be compared to any happiness that you have had in the sensual world. The highest happiness that you have in the sensual world is the the connection between man and a woman on the bed. And in that sexual engagement, you get some happiness, and that is the highest happiness that all the animal beings are aware of. But when it comes to the spiritual world, completely moving away from that gives you even a higher happiness, the happiness that cannot be compared even in your sex life. So therefore, spirituality is way beyond the sense faculties. So, but unfortunately, although it is way beyond, way high above the sense faculties, very few people are again coming into this because of this intoxication. And in order to satisfy sense faculties, you will have to have so many objects. Sense faculties will not be satisfied just because you have them. You will have to keep on feeding the eye with form, ear with sound, nose with smells, and tongue with the taste, body with the tactile sensation, mind with all sorts of daydreaming and intellectualization. And without those objects, sense faculties cannot be maintained. Sense faculties will be hacking you. Sense faculties will be murdering you if these objects are not given. You simply can, if you try to close your eyes and be somewhere for about a week, you simply can't think of it. And we know how hard it is to be done just for 1 hour. And we are simply doing it for 1 hour. Sometimes it becomes very hard. But if the things are going all right, we may be able to go beyond few hours. We go for few hours, but it will be very difficult for a lot of people to keep the eyes closed, because our sense faculties are craving for so much objects. But when it comes to spirituality, moving away from sense objects is the only serenity, is the only happiness. So therefore, when we practice, we come to the temple, because there you don't have any sense objects. Or Buddha says, Aranyagatova Rukkamulagatova, which means go to a forest, go to a foot of a tree, or go to an empty hut, because you move away from the sense object. When you move away from the sense object, there is no need for you to maintain. And moving away from sense object is the way the spirituality is giving happiness. And that is what we enjoy. That is what we experience in mindfulness. When you do mindfulness, we move away from all those things and go for choiceless awareness of all our physical and mental process. So since the mundane world requires this sense objects, and since sense objects are short in supply, are not available in abundance, so everyone will have to compete for these limited resources. So as a result, everyone is fighting. Because of the competition, everyone is trying to gather, acquire as much resources as possible for him or for her or for his country, or their country. And as a result, there is no shortage in fighting in the world. There is no shortage in fighting in societies. There is no shortage in fighting in schools. There is no shortage in fighting in offices. All because of the competition to grab as many sense objects as possible. So there is a huge competition in the mundane world, and which is creating this fight. But when it comes to spirituality, absolutely no competition. It is just a compromise, and no one is coming to compete. If I say I'm going for a meditation program today, and other people will not try to pull your leg and then cheat you and then take your place. They say, okay, you go, and I have so many things. Nobody is competing with you to come to mindfulness program, to come to meditation retreat. So it is win without a prize, without a fight rather. So spirituality is available in such a simple manner, but unfortunately, intoxication in mundane world is avoiding such an uncompetitive, huge happiness that is available for the human being. Although the mundane world is fighting for these limited resources, in the spiritual world, when it comes to the practice, instead of fight, what you will simply have is, you will have laziness, and you may feel sleepy. And that is completely the opposite of the fight we have. And not only that, something that is good for you may be bad for others in the mundane world, because everything that you do in the mundane world will not be happiness for everybody. Say, for example, you want to grab as much as oil possible from one country, and therefore other countries will have to keep fighting with that country to get the right bit. So as a result, it becomes bad for poor countries. Poor countries will not be able to afford as much energy, as much resources as they want because of this competition. So therefore, in the mundane world, something which is good for someone is bad for others. But whereas in the spiritual world, it's completely the other way around. If someone is doing the practice, and if someone is coming for choiceless happiness, choiceless awareness rather, and it gives happiness to everyone. Just because one is having happiness for whatever he is doing, and others' happiness will, in any case, not be compromised, will not be reduced. So therefore, happiness is simply shared instead of creating a situation which is bad and good, which is competitive, as in the mundane world. And the other thing that we have in the mundane world, or the mundane happiness will have to be maintained intentionally. It will have to be maintained purposely. It will have to be maintained with lot of effort, because mundane happiness does not last long. It lasts only a fraction of a second. If you are eating something, if you are drinking something, as I'm doing now, the happiness of that will last only for that fraction of a second. And after that, you will have to keep feeding. So therefore, mundane happiness is not something lasting. But whereas spiritual happiness, if you are happy, and that happiness will never go away from you, that will never leave you. Therefore, spiritual happiness is timeless. That happiness that you earn today, it will be with you forever. And not only that, it will cultivate, it will grow, it will exponentially increase if you continue the practice. And when you practice, and if you don't practice for some time, and if you come and start once again after, say, a few days or few months, you will observe yourself that your happiness has not diminished at all. You will simply start the same place that you stopped a few weeks or few months ago. So therefore, the happiness that you get in the spiritual world is something which is not controlled by time. Every other happiness is controlled by time. This is why we are paid on a periodical basis. We are paid either monthly, or we are paid either fortnightly, or we are paid either weekly, because it is only for a time period. But whereas spiritual happiness is concerned, it has got nothing to do with the time. It stays forever. In another thing in the mundane world is, because of this competition, you will have to always pay a price. The question of economics comes into the equation because of the competition. Everyone is going behind these limited resources. So as I said earlier, demand and supply will come into the picture. The question of not having money and having money will come into the picture. The question of loans and deposit will come into the picture. The question of interest receiving and interest paying will come into the picture. The question of inflation will come into the picture. All because of competition, all because of sense objects, all because we are addicted to satisfying our sensual faculties. So therefore, in the mundane world, we will have to pay a price for everything. If we receive something free, and that is paid, the price for that is the tax that we are paying. So therefore, you don't receive anything in the mundane world free of charge. Although it looks free of charge, it is not so. Someone has already paid for it. So therefore, in the mundane world, things are priced, and there is a price tag. But whereas spiritual world is concerned, none of the economic theories are applicable. In the spiritual world, there is no demand and supply equation applying there. There is no taxation there. There is no inflation there. It's simply completely the opposite of the free market theory. It is free, not only in the market, it is free everywhere. It is free for any person. It is free for any time. It is free for any state. It is free on any land. So therefore, economic theories are not applicable. There is no price tag in the spiritual world. So therefore, no charge. Although there is no charge in most of the places in Sri Lanka, they offer meditation free of charge, but hardly people are coming. Of course, there are few people who take the advantage of this uncomparable teaching. But compared to the population, only very few people are really taking the advantage of this freely available teaching, which cannot be priced. So when you look at this way, in the mundane world, we simply have only the stress. After doing all that, the end of the week, end of the month, end of the life, you will be left with stress only. You will be left with tension only. You will be left with depression only. You will be left with all diseases arising from mental pressure only. That is because in the mundane world, we have been hacking ourselves just to satisfy our sense faculties. We have been fighting with ourselves and the rest of the world mentally. And therefore, all what you have got is to face the stress. So therefore, irrespective of how much you earn, how much wealth you have, towards the end of your life, you will have to pay it for the diseases. So that is all what is happening at the end. So the result is stress. Whereas in the spiritual world, lack of stress, reduce pressure, reduce depression, no tension. You simply choicelessly be aware of whatever the scenario that is arising. And that is so much, that gives so much happiness to the practitioners. So therefore, spiritual happiness or the spiritual world is way superior to the mundane world. So, but unfortunately, those who are in the spiritual world are labeled as antisocial. And because they always prefer to be in the forest, they prefer to be in the under a foot of a tree. They prefer to be in empty hut. They prefer to be like-minded people. They don't want. They try and avoid going for parties and clubs and dancing and all sorts of things will be available. So therefore, they will be very easily labeled as antisocial, and it is done by those who are satisfying only their sense faculties. So, therefore, in the mundane world, being in the society, being sociable is a huge badge according to them. But whereas if someone says you are so antisocial, and just mind you, just take that as a huge honor. Don't ever be embarrassed. Don't ever be unhappy. Don't ever be frustrated about it. You have got to consider that as a certificate that your practice is going well. So therefore, and this is something very important, important to the practitioners when they go to the society. Sometimes you may be labeled like that, and then you should be very happy internally. Should not be upset at all. So therefore, being antisocial is the way forward. And that is exactly what the Buddha said. Seclusion gives you the highest spirituality, higher happiness. And again, in the social world or in the mundane world, as I explained earlier, climax of the mundane world, climax of happiness in the mundane world is the sexuality. But whereas the climax in the spiritual world is completely the opposite, it is the celibacy. And they completely, voluntarily move away 100% from sexuality. Because not having sexuality, not having sex, gives them the highest happiness. So it's completely uncomparable two worlds. So in that way, you will be going for higher happiness. And in this manner, for the commoner, those who are not practicing, those who are only engaged in the mundane world, so worldly activities, spirituality is a headache. Spirituality is a hate. Spirituality is a huge suffering. They ask, who can be sitting for such a long time? Who can be sitting without opening their eyes? Who can practice? Who can go for a retreat for 5 days? Are you mad? And if they hear you won't be able to eat your dinner, they go even crazy. So they simply can't understand that people are able to do these things. But for the learned disciple, for the one who is having a lot of merits, and for him, being away from sensuality is a huge pleasantness, and going to sensuality is a suffering. So some of you may have experience. You feel that when you go to the sensual world, it gives bit of a friction. But having said that, when you live in the sensual world, you will have to be mindful of that friction, not hate that. And therefore, it becomes your challenge to be more aware of it. So, in this manner, the commoner spiritual, to the commoner spiritual world is a suffering, whereas for the learned disciple, sensuality is a suffering. So, for the commoner, he keeps working from morning to evening. In other words, he dies to make pleasantness permanent. That is what the entire world is doing. They are trying their level best to keep all the human beings not dead, to keep all human beings alive. And they are doing all sorts of researches, they're doing all sorts of experiments to avoid death. And to do that, they die in doing that. But whereas in spiritual world, they observe the breath until the breath completely disappears, and which is almost close to the death, but they still keep observing. So they go beyond death. They go, they challenge the death. So therefore, it's a huge difference in searching happiness in the spiritual world and the mundane world. So therefore, the mundane world always consider, since they are competing, since they are going for sensual objects, only thing they know is the having lot of sensual objects, and therefore all the yardsticks are based on the sensual objects. They say, if you are happy, you should have lot of sensual objects, and therefore your development is measured by gross domestic production or per capita income. And if you have a lot of assets, you are a rich person. And if you have a lot of degrees, you are an educated person. And whereas in the spiritual world, you have the begging bowl, you have 3 robes, and you go to a foot of a tree, and you have some basic medication. And if you don't have basic medication, your only medication is your own urine. So when you live in that manner, you are not developed. You are an undeveloped or underdeveloped. You are a poor person. You are an uneducated person. That is the spiritual world. But so far as the happiness is concerned, they live a simple life, but they will have very high thinking. But in the mundane world, they live as complex life as possible, but absolutely no thinking. It is all gross thinking, and they will know only the language of dollars and cents. Therefore, the Buddha says, if you really want to have the sensual, go away from the sensual world, or go away from the suffering in the sensual world, then you will have to observe the happiness in the sensual world. You will have to observe at the same time the suffering that they make to create that happiness in the sensual world. So Buddha is not saying completely get rid of sensual happiness. He says there is some sensual happiness, but be aware of it. Don't indulge in it. Don't think that it is something that can be permanent. When you have this happiness, you simply be aware of that happiness. When that happiness disappears, simply be aware of that disappearance of happiness. When you are suffering to create happiness, just be aware of that. And that itself is the path for spirituality. So therefore, Buddha is not asking straight away, you simply cut all your mundane activity and 100% come to the spiritual world. He says, first observe where you are. And with that observation, understand what friction you are undergoing. And then that will pave the path for you to go for better spiritual happiness, better spiritual path. So that is why he is saying, when you a man with good eyesight inspect it, ponder it, and carefully investigate it, he will find it to be void, hollow, and insubstantial. So when that happens, only when you observe. If you don't observe, you are not inspecting your own happiness, and therefore you have no opportunity to observe the unhappiness that you are going through. And you will not be able to see the mountain of unhappiness that you are going through to create a tiny bit of happiness. But if you are observing, you are really inspecting what you are doing. You are really pondering what you are doing. You are carefully investigating what you are doing. Then you start realizing that I am in a real soup. And when you realize that, you will again not hate it. You will continue with that with the awareness. So therefore, there you get an opportunity to not to hate this frictional world. So once you learn the art of not hating the frictional world, then it is easy for you to go to the spiritual world. But if you go to the spiritual world with the hatred about the sensual world, then what you are carrying to the spiritual world is the hatred. So therefore, although we know that the sensual world is so inferior, we must not go with the hatred towards the sensual world. We will have to go through that in the sensual world itself. So that is a great advantage that the lay people are having. They are in the sensual world. they see the friction in the sensual world, and they have therefore the opportunity to observe that friction in the sensual world. And therefore, they create a good foundation for the spiritual world. So when they create this foundation to the spiritual world, all these happinesses that I mentioned, the happiness that comes without price, happiness that comes with compromise, happiness that comes without competition, happiness that does not depend on any economic theories, you will be able to reach. So therefore, it is a very energizing thing. Intelligent one doesn't waste time on trying to maximize worldly feelings. He will understand the worldly feelings in that manner. He would know the limits, or she would know the limits. So when you know the limits, then you will not get bogged down in it. You will not be overwhelmed with it. So it will be therefore very easy for you to invest your time as much as you want in the spirituality with a big heart. So therefore, that will lead not just to the practice, that will lead to the real happiness that you are looking for. So this is the introduction to the feelings in the mundane and spiritual happiness. So in the next discussion, I would like to discuss the real happiness that we get in the spiritual world, the real absorptions, real jhanas that we have in the spiritual world. And then we will be able to talk a bit more. Until such time, may you all be happy with observation and with mindfulness for the rest of your life. See you again next time. Teruvan Saranai, blessings of the Triple J.
Sadhu. Sadhu.
With that, we will be able to open the floor for the discussion. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that was a really great, relatable talk. I think ever since I started doing the practice, I've noticed like a lot of cravings I had started falling off. Back then I used to like binge watch movies, all that stuff, because nowadays it's the streaming sites are like a lot more available than it used to be. So there's easy access to watching movies, so you can just stay in bed all day and like watch movies, TV shows, and all that. I used to have like really bad habits of binge watching. I think a lot of people can relate. And I think the further I went into the practice, like the more I started noticing myself, like I would just like take out Netflix or something, and all I would do is just like scroll on it. I wouldn't even watch anything. So I've noticed like a huge loss of interest in that kind of thing. If I watch a movie or something, it would just be like be with family or something. Watch a movie with them. But I still have like I still notice like a huge amount of friction regarding the there's a word for it, the cravings. It's still there's a huge amount of craving, stuff like alcohol and partying and other things. I don't do it as much as I used to, but like it's at a very low level, but the craving is still there. But it's like that level of like that streaming example. Like honestly, it's not even that, but yeah, there's that basic amount of craving that I still find that's like a friction in that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And like
so long as keep going.
So yeah, I think like that, like I still find that little confusion of like trying to balance these two things, trying to think of what's right, what's wrong, where is this heading? There's still like that kind of confusion part. Like how can I balance these two things? Without having a hatred for the sensual world. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
No, thank you. I mean, don't be in a rush. So long as you know that you are engaged in something which is unacceptable, or you are not unacceptable, something that is in the sensual world, that knowing is very important.
Mm.
Do it. You don't want to do it, but still you have the craving. Because of the craving, you are get automatically pulled into it, and you do it with your full awareness, being aware that you are doing it. If possible, you keep labeling when you are doing it. So therefore, you will not get immersed in it. You will not
Yeah.
get indulged in it. You will not get bogged down in it. It will gradually come out, as you have already mentioned in Netflix case.
Yeah.
Even this, when you do it with awareness, its interest gradually will start going down.
Yeah.
So therefore, the only way to balance is the awareness of it. Otherwise, even if you have hatred, just be aware of the hatred as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you will not start hating the hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, it's don't be in a rush. Since you are already mindful, you are able to very clearly see this. Otherwise,
Mm.
you will be justifying what you are doing. So that
Yeah.
itself is therefore a step forward.
I just have like another question. Lately I've had a good sense of mindfulness like throughout the day. I'm finally starting to understand what Soiwansa means, like when you say mindfulness to the full, because like throughout the whole day I'm always telling myself mindfulness to the full, mindfulness to the full. So I'm like, I like, especially recently, like I'm very happy with it. I can maintain a sense of mindfulness throughout the day. So when I'm at work, when I'm at home, at the gym. I just have one question. So like I think I've heard people mention, you know, it's like to them it's like having a camera set on your head throughout the whole day. Like Lokohamdra has mentioned there's always a camera behind your head, just like watching what's happening.
Yeah.
Like I've experienced that, and you know I've also experienced mindfully doing something. So you know if I'm driving, I'm mindfully driving. If I'm drinking water, so I'm just inside my body drinking the water mindfully.
Yeah.
And I also tried, you know, like having that camera on top of my head, like just looking what's happening. Is there like a right or wrong way to do it?
No, there is no right or wrong way to do it. And if you feel that you are mindful, and one thing is when you say mindfulness, and if I ask you how you are mindful, then you should be able to give your experience, your observation of that particular activity.
Activity.
Which I'm not going to do now.
Yeah.
Try to have more information about that particular activity. Like in walking,
Okay.
we get as much information as about the walk, and we try to get as much information as while sitting. So therefore, we can definitely confirm. We are not simply saying mindful. We can confirm that we have been mindful because of the evidence that we are able to provide.
Understand. Yeah.
So therefore, even in the other activities, see whether you have such evidence. That's number one. Number two, don't be overjoyed about being mindful, because it is also a game of the mind. Mind is trying to make you overconfident, and that itself will leave some room for the mind to put you down. Since you are overconfident, if one day, if this mindfulness goes away, because there is nothing permanent, so even that so-called mindfulness, it will completely vanish. And if you more rely on it too much, then you will fall down to the rock bottom.
Yeah, I've been relying on it like a lot lately.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. But okay, at the same time, you be mindful that it will disappear anytime. If it disappear, I will be mindful of that disappearance as well.
Yeah.
So therefore, you will not be craving for mindfulness now.
Yeah.
So that is very important part, because Buddha has mentioned it is a finer defilement. There are 10 finer defilements he has given. So this is one of them.
Yeah.
He calls it Supatitita Sati. We think that now our mindfulness is perfect, nobody will be able to touch, and that is a suggestion from our mind to cling to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like definitely experienced that a lot, because lately at work and stuff, sometimes like I'll try to use that to get things done, because like I don't want to interference with other people. And
Yeah.
I think I mentioned like there was like a couple of times where I mentioned it was like feeling like a hot rod. It was like this sharp sense of awareness.
Yeah.
It's like this new energy I found or whatever that I mentioned. And that just got like stronger and stronger, and I started feeling like a really strong sense of awareness.
Yeah.
Of like, and that was just like around my neck area, just pulling everything together, and it was just like watching everything happen. So I started relying on that a lot, but I think lately it has disappeared like a little bit. It's just gone away.
Yeah, no, don't. What I would say is, if that is happening, what you just mentioned, if that energy happens, you don't try to make use of it to do anything.
Yeah.
You just let that happen, and let that energy goes anywhere it wants to go. You don't try to make use of that to do anything else. And other thing is, of course, when you are mindful, your efficiency will grow, because you are not fighting with any energy that is within you or outside. So therefore, your efficiency will naturally be high, and therefore you will be able to do your work meticulously. And that's a natural gift that you get when you become mindful. So that's common.
Yeah.
But don't think that these are permanent. If something happen, you should not get upset as well.
Okay. Yeah. I think with my practice, my walking's going really well. Like I can focus on the object like almost like 80% of the time. I've kept it really simple lately, like in the last couple of months. And I'm literally just watching my step, and I've started realizing how much I complicated it in like the time before that. So walking's very simple, concentrated. When I'm seated, my object is like just the body. Like I'm looking at my posture. I do get distracted a lot more when I'm seated. Couple of things I experience are like agitation. Lots of agitation when I'm seated. I usually like meditate with like a jumper on, with like a hoodie. So like my hood always goes on, and it's like a natural habit I've developed. Like, so when I'm agitated, I'm always like pulling this hoodie down over my head. This agitation, like it kind of comes from like the left side of my leg, around my groin area. And towards the end of the practice, I find, I think in the last couple of weeks, I find my like left leg going numb. So at the end of the practice, it's always my left leg. It's very numb at the end of the practice. But those are the things that are like kind of stopping me from like staying with the body.
I would say it is not stopping with the body; it stops with the.
It stops with what? Sorry.
You are saying it is stopping with your. It is stopping the awareness with the body. You said.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not so. It is the other way around. That helps you to be with the body. When you feel that the leg is numb,
then
your attention is in that leg all the time.
Yeah.
So what happens
like
is
the attention, the numbness, it's there. The what's distracting me is just the agitation in the body. So the numbness, like I feel at the end of the practice or something when I'm like trying to get up or something. But it's mostly like the agitation in the body. Like
agitation in the body is also assisting your awareness in the body.
Okay. Yeah.
The body is always agitated, because it is always live. So when
Yeah.
it is live, it is generating and degenerating.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when you see that happening very fast, you see the body is agitated.
Mm.
And use the word agitation because maybe internally, without your knowledge, in a subtle way, you may not like it.
Mm.
That is why you are using the word agitation.
Interesting. Yeah.
But instead, this is a normal phenomena that you observe, that you have got to observe. So
Yeah.
if you simply observe it as a phenomena, it is not an agitation. It is the nature.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
in this manner, in a subtle way, our mind is trying to interpret things. And this is how it becomes a feeling.
Mm.
Now, your attention is in the body. There is something very subtle happening in the body. And your mind is hating it, even which you
Mm.
don't know. So
Yeah.
that hatred is explained as agitation. Whereas if you simply 100% accept that as nothing that is happening, there is nothing to hate, then it's just another phenomenon. So it's a very
Phenomenal.
good
Yeah.
juncture. And next time when you see this agitation, with a smile, observe it because
Yeah.
it is you.
Yeah.
You can't say you are agitated.
Yeah.
Agitated because you don't like it. Now,
Mm.
if you start accepting you accept what is going within you.
Mm.
No matter how hard it is, no matter how bad it is,
Yeah.
it is me. And if I am not accepting myself, who is going to accept myself?
Yeah.
So that's a very good jump.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's happening because I feel like I go into this here to practice it with like a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me because I'm like I'll be very satisfied by like the end of the walking meditation.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh my God, I need to maintain this. And I'll just sit down with that same expectation or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, being happy is good, but
Yeah.
having expectation is also natural. But just be aware that you have the expectation. Then the expectation
Expectation.
will not take over you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are people, having agendas all the time. And
Yeah.
when we see that we have an agenda, that seeing will take away the strength of that agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be all, sorry, Master. Thank you,
Anybody else? Hello, Steve.
Hello, Bante. How are you?
Pretty good. When did you become a judge?
Judge? Do I look like
Yeah.
a judge?
It looks like a robe of a judge.
No, this is what I wore on retreat.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Teruwan Saranai, Bante.
Everyone said.
I'm just thinking how I can condense this. I've got questions at the end. I'm just trying to break it down so it's easier for you to try and understand. So the last month or so, you can hear me okay?
I think my hearing is getting worse.
No. Is it okay though? Because I've had to change it from my phone because I've got a new laptop and I'm not sure if the microphone, the video is not working on it. So
Yeah, no, that's okay. Keep going.
yeah, so the last month or so, because you haven't been available, this is why this will be relatively long, I think. Yeah, the last month or so, I've been sort of just letting my meditation be a little bit more free flowing and not really trying to put too much pressure on myself and overthink and analyze things. And it's definitely worked like very good in the sense where this seems like it's strategic and it seems like it is organized, but it's just naturally happening. I'm not putting any emphasis into doing anything in order. In the mornings, my morning meditation when I wake up, it's still based like tranquility style like meditation. It's very relaxing, and I think that's due to just waking up and stuff. When I do my lunchtime meditation at work, it's more of suppose you could say choiceless awareness, in the sense that there's a lot of external noises and things like that going on. So I'm not really having much well, I suppose it's mindfulness, but I'm not really having a lot of deep samadhi or anything when I'm at work, just based on the fact that there's a lot of external sounds and noises. So I'm just having, choiceless awareness and just observing and like hearing, using my hearing faculty, I suppose you could say. And that's giving me a lot more patience, which is obviously a good thing. And then the evening meditation, it's more based on like Kayanapassana. It's like, the body, which I've been doing for about a month now. And it's good because, I can feel hairs, like the external phenomena. I can feel like the hairs growing on my face and especially my head. Internal phenomena, I can sense like my heart. I can feel the flowing through my body with, I think it's obviously blood, the oxygen going down my throat. I've sort of stopped doing, I suppose you could say, anapanasati, because now it's sort of more, I've noticed it's more diaphragm, sort of lower, noticing the rising and falling of my chest, my abdomen. And I've been doing a lot of like noting and labeling. So when I'm sort of meditating now, I'm just thinking like, inhale, exhale, my abdomen, the rising, falling of my abdomen. And then I'm going into a very deep stage of samadhi, deeper than what I was before when I was focusing just on the breath, even though I feel that this sort of like goes both together, the breath and the diaphragm. When I mentioned to you in the car, I don't know if you recall about my solar plexus, I was having that sort of solar plexus and then my heart sort of connection thing going on. Now I'm getting, when I'm doing the breathing, I'm noticing the breath coming through my nose, and I'm noticing it going down to my diaphragm, and then the rising of my diaphragm, and then obviously the reverse of that with the exhale, and then the falling of my diaphragm, right? So what's happening is I'm doing that and I'm labeling a lot of things. So if, say if an itch sensation comes, I'm going, wanting to itch, and then it sort of fades away. And then obviously something else arises, and it's usually another itch somewhere else. I'm getting a body temperature kind of thing now where I'm feeling the heat. My question is, and this is where I'm having an issue, is after I've done my Kayanapassana and I've done the contemplation on the body, I'm having some really, really, really bad nightmares. I'm not sure if this is from after doing the contemplation of the body, which I'm only doing at the evening after work at about
so bad what?
Around midnight. I'm doing my
bad
Kayanapassana.
what you said? It's really,
Sorry?
really bad. Really, really bad.
Really bad is nightmares. So
Okay.
yeah, nightmares, because I'm doing it late at night, and then after I've done the contemplation of the body, I'm just labeling myself. Every mindful movement after my meditation is lying down, turning, laying back, sleeping, sleeping, sleeping. And then I'm going back to the rising and falling of my diaphragm and the anapanasati kind of thing. And then when I fall asleep, I'm having some really, really like full-on nightmares with like I can't even really explain it because it's a bit R-rated, but there's like dead body corpses. I'm having like demented looking like zombies, not zombies, but like very, very real, like humans, but it's disgusting. And I'm waking up not really scared or terrified, but I'm not very comfortable with what's going on. And it's been happening for the last couple of weeks, these dreams. What's going on?
So are they really dreams, or
I hope they're dreams.
do they appear when you are half asleep?
So when I'm doing the contemplation of the body at night,
Yeah.
I'm getting like, I can see my insides a little bit, like not a lot, but when I get like, I think I've mentioned to you, it was happening at the tree, the bright light, the white, that's happening. And then after the bright white light, I'm getting flashes of like very, very realistic, like like I suppose you could say thoughts of like, but it's like a movie, but it doesn't happen for very long. It's only a few seconds, and then it falls back out. And so I'm going back to the breathing again.
Yeah.
I'm sort of getting those flashes, and I'm thinking that that's related to having these dreams. Is it's going into my subconscious, or it's going into like somewhere in my mind?
No, it is what's happening is this. Now you're mentioning that you are going into deeper samadhi, and then you observe the process of the breath. You observe the breath is happening at the beginning of the nostrils and then going through the diaphragm, and then your abdomen inflates and deflates, and then the reverse process is happening. So which means your attention is 100% in the body. And it is happening naturally without your involvement, and simply become an observer, right? So when that is happening, you are not doing anything intentionally. Since you don't do anything intentionally, your consciousness has been 100% challenged to its normal processing, right? So that is a purification. Stopping choices or not doing mental volitions is a purification. That purification is being experienced by this some sort of a light.
Yeah.
So it's just a clearing or cleansing of our nervous system. Our nervous system is always electromagnetic field. So when these electromagnetic fields are being purified, or when they are not being fed with negative energies, you start seeing, the dirt is getting away, and then you feel brightness, right? So that feeling brightness, you will have to simply label it as knowing. Yeah. So that then you become aware of that. So instead of being immersed with it, instead of enjoying it, instead of getting bogged down in it, when it appears, you simply label it as awareness, knowing, right? So, and then you said you do your body contemplation while sleeping, and then keep going.
Yeah, so the body contemplation I'm doing at nighttime. When I come home from work after I've had a shower, I do Pranayama, and I'm contemplating on internal and external phenomena that's happening within, the body, basically inside and outside.
What do you do there? When you say body contemplation, what do you do?
So basically what I'm doing is, like, I'm not forcefully doing it. I'm just having a theme or a topic. So it's like body contemplation. And then, so as I'm doing my breathing, I can start feeling like hair growing on my beard, because I'm shaving quite a lot. It could be a possible thing, but like hair growing on here, and it's not a bad thing at all. Like it's sometimes irritating, but then that's leading to maybe after 15, 20, even 30 minutes, it's starting to, after I'm doing the breathing, I go into the samadhi because my breath it's effortless and it slows down and it's nice. It's like a stream.
Yeah.
That's when I start, the internal phenomena start. So I notice like my organs and the blood circulating around my body. It sounds really crazy, but this is just how it's sort of happening.
Yeah.
And then after I stop meditation, I pay homage to the Buddha, and then I lay back in bed, and then I'm labeling everything that I'm doing, the lead up to going to sleep. So laying down, laying down. And then I'm sort of going from there. You know, I'm doing watching the thing, like watching my diaphragm going up and down because I'm laying down, and then sleeping, wanting to sleep, I'm just labeling everything basically, because I'm finding when I'm at home, it's obvious, as you know, it's very quiet there. And the last month or so I've been labeling, you know, the train noise going past every, you know, however many minutes it is, labeling the external noises, labeling if any thoughts are coming up. I'm labeling them like more specific in the sense where I'm like work thought, you know, money thought. Like I'm sort of specifying my labeling a little bit more. And what I find that's doing now is bringing me into the constant, like the samadhi, a lot faster. So I'm going into a very concentrated, I mean, I don't even think that's the right word. It's like a relaxed state where I can just, like, everything's like a rhythm kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, keep going.
Yeah, so then when I fall asleep, this is when, I mean, I'm only aware of it when I wake up, but I remember the dreams pretty well. Like I'd say 70, 80% of the dreams I'm remembering. And they're not like beautiful dreams at all. They're,
So
they're
now
not nice.
this is not part of your practice. So it is something that you remember after the sleep.
Yes, after the sleep, when I wake up, I'm like, what's going on? No,
I mean,
part of the
yeah,
practice is, you know, I'm getting the white light and I'm getting little flashes of, but it's only a few seconds, Bhante. It's the dreams that I'm having that are the bad things.
That's okay. I want to clarify a few things before that. When you said when you said when you said you feel the hair growing,
Yes.
are you interpreting whatever that you feel as hair growing? Is it actually hair growing?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, this is the problem, right? So if it is something that you feel, so just be aware of it. Now, our mind is so crafty to give it a label, not to accept it as it is, but accept the way the mind works.
So how would I go about labeling or noting that then? Like,
No,
can I label it hair growing?
That's another thing that I want to comment. Right. So this is one thing. Don't treat it as hair growing. It is something that you feel, and just be aware of it. And the next thing about this labeling, at the in this particular stage, at the rate that your practice is going on, too much labeling is agitating your practice.
Right.
You are trying to label each and everything. So therefore, you always keep the water waves working instead of making it naturally still. Right? So therefore, instead of labeling, you can label sometimes, right? If it goes out of control and if you really want to have the attention. But these are here when these are very subtle things. When especially after feeling the process of the respiration, too much labeling will agitate your mind.
Right.
Right. So therefore, don't try to label each and everything. And no matter whether you exactly know what it is, but if you know something is happening, that knowing is enough.
Yeah.
Right. So if you hear train sound, just being aware of that hearing is enough. When you go to bed, knowing that you are going to bed is enough.
Yeah.
Right. So there, what you do is you keep yourself too much awake. And when you go to bed, when you are sleeping, you are not sleeping fully. Right. So this is why these dreams are appearing. And the other reason is in the way that you mentioned that your samadhi is so deep. Samadhi deep means your mind is at the deeper stages. So when the mind is gone to such a deep state, what happens is it is bringing out things that you will question. It will bring out things that you will dislike. It will bring out things that can make you unhappy. That will make you afraid, right? It
So-
depends on the personal qualities and the defilements that are lying underneath. So therefore, since you have not invited those things to happen, since you know it after you wake up, just forget it.
Yeah.
Don't try to make yourself identify yourself with it. It is something that has happened in a dream.
Yeah.
Now, if you talk about it after the dream, you are trying to give it a life.
Trying to give it a meaning. Yeah.
Yeah. It is dead and gone. Who cares? It may have some relation to the practice. And that relation I say is the defilements are coming out.
Mm.
When the defilements are coming out, if you are not scared, if you are not suspecting, and of course you are questioning it, what the heck is going on, right? That is exactly what the mind wants you to do.
Mm.
Mind wants you to identify yourself with that.
So it's trying to, in a way, it's like playing games with me.
It's playing games with you.
Yeah.
So, but if suppose it happens in your practice, then what do we do? Simply
Well,
become aware.
just
Choiceless
note it.
awareness.
Be aware. Yeah.
Yeah, it is there. Okay, no problem. I will just look zombie. Sometimes you may see huge devils and huge snakes will appear. So deformed type of sorts of people will appear. Animals will appear. All these things are coming just to test the strength of our mind. And if you simply say, I am aware, I am aware, I am aware, all those fellows will not stand a chance. But if you become scared, or if you start trying to search them, then you will get involved and that will create problem. So therefore, don't give it a life.
Thank you, Bhante. Teruvan
Teruvan
Saranai.
Saranai. Teruvan.
Have you got something, Alex?
Yeah.
Alex has got something as well.
Hi,
Oh,
Alex.
Oh, hi, Bhante. Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.
How have you been?
Very good, very good. What about you?
Yeah, I was good as well. And
Good.
yeah,
Good.
I had 2 weeks holidays in between June and July. I was
Right.
in Korea and Japan for 1 week
Right.
each. Yes, and
Good.
during the trip, especially from a Japan trip, I learned something. I had a life lesson to share that with you. When I was in Korea, I was spending time actually with my friends and family.
Yeah.
Yes, and when I was in Japan, I was traveling. Yes, I've been looking around Japanese cars on the road and Japanese souvenirs, and I've been have a variety of Japanese food, etc., etc. Their exclusive stuff. And when I was in Japan, since I've been having access to those I would say entertainments or whatever you call it, I've been having access to all those stuff at all times. So I've been thinking, I haven't felt much for those, but once I landed Australia, I've had a few Japanese books and a few a few Japanese like capsules, like capsule vending machines are like on the street, etc., etc. Yes, on the day I arrived home, like and when I was seeing those stuff, like Japanese stuff on my bed, oh, I realized, oh, this was a long dream. And what I was thinking was oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, I could have done that better, I could have spent my family more often when I was in Korea, or I should have observed these more, I should have observed these more. Yes, but yeah, I've been like kind of having regrets, like in what I should have done, like over
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I also realized at the same time, this is what everyone feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of life lesson I've had, like over the holiday.
Yeah, no, that's a good analogy, because what basically happens is, if you don't practice, you will be indulged in it and you will enjoy it, enjoy that, and you will get intoxicated with it. Since
Yes.
you have mindfulness now, because of your tendency, because of your habit, because of your obsession, you will do them. But at the same time, someone from behind your head might be saying, you would have observed this, you would not have done this. So there is someone telling you the limits of the sensuality. So that is the first thing that happens when someone becomes mindful.
The limits
So
of
you become more and more sensitive to the
Yes.
unwanted or excess amount of your sensuality.
Yes.
So it's therefore rather a question. It is an answer. Now you see the problem. Seeing the problem is in itself the answer. So it's so far as I'm concerned, it's a way forward. Make sense?
Yes, sort of.
Good.
Yes, and yeah, and when I was like meditating, yeah, I've been meditating like over the traveling as well, and yeah, during my Japan trip, I realized why I shouldn't drink in order to meditate, because if I drink even a little bit, it breaks the rhythm. That's what I found out.
Yeah.
So, and I've been meditating often, and sometimes there were a few days I didn't meditate. I didn't meditate, but nowadays I'm back on the track of doing it every day, and
Good.
the beginning of it was like sometimes I get to like procrastinate stuff, and yeah, one day when I was when I decided to do meditation, like and set the timer, like once I start the timer and I get to straighten my back, and that's how I found out oh, this is how it feels. And one somehow also my meditation also during the meditation what I observed was you need to meditate like in order to like succeed further, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have observed.
Yeah, so with all that, continuation of the practice is the most important thing. So just keep it up and try to observe as much as possible of what's going within, and it is better to report that as well next time, in addition to the life experiences.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Everyone's right. All right. So I hope you have anything, Sahan?
Yes. Hello, hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Mountain.
How are you? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
So you were speaking about this sensual world, and I was just wanted to like add that like when you are living in this like world, like in cities with peoples, with different kind of objects, feelings, it can be really like valuable than being like in a forest or be completely alone, because there will be much more happening to learn. For example, taking eating. Uh, for example, you will like observe that uh, each bite you may crave even more kind of taste, and you want to drink now, and you just like after eating you want to do something else, or for example eating some kind of sweet, and this kind of things that mind going through, and with like observing the way you approach life, it's just become different than like uh, compared to the person with no like observation or practicing. And like even in a sexual activity, uh, you will see how you crave, how you want to take something out, and wanting something. And you may realize sometimes it's the sound that you are grasping, it's the form that you are grasping, it's the story that you uh, tell your mind. You become like crave to that thing, and yeah, with like more practice, it becomes something that over time you will not be against it or chasing. You just like accept it as it is and just trying to observe. And yeah, just it's something really, it's a lifelong journey that you have to go and just like observe. It's very beautiful. And I have a
Yes.
question. Like, I gave you my report, like during walking meditation,
Yeah.
you said to me, so now you feel your walking sensation and you have different kind of thoughts and feelings, and now you have
Yeah.
to like recognize the cycles
Yes.
between thoughts and sensation. Now my question is like, I can tell for now like 70% or 80% of a time that I'm doing walking meditation, it's thoughts. I'm not saying I'm distracted. I'm not distracted, but I'm observing there are thoughts, and like 20%, 30%, it's just legs, feet sensation, and things like that. So, how can
Yeah.
I like observe this cycle? Should I count it? Should I? How should I
Yeah.
observe this cycle?
Yeah. No, when you give this 30%, 70% analysis or 20%, 80% analysis, are you saying this happened first 20% feed and then last 80% thoughts, or overall it is 20% and overall it is 80%?
Overall
Is my question
during,
clear?
yeah. Like for example, if I have 40 minutes of walking meditation,
Yeah.
like maybe 70 to 80% of it will be like thoughts and like kind
Yeah.
feelings, and
Yeah.
20% feet sensation.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. So when I say cycles, since it is overall, say first 5 minutes, you will be with some thoughts and then some feet movement or feet sensation or observation of the feet. And again, uh, you will have the same thing, right? So first, initially you will be able to observe your feet for 2 minutes, and then you will have thoughts. Again, you will observe your feet, and then you will have thoughts. Again, you will observe your feet, again you will have thoughts. So like that, this is happening in cycles.
Yes.
Does it make sense? So when you can observe whether how many such cycles are happening. Overall, 80%, 20% is fine, right?
Yeah.
But if you have cycles like this, then you can see how many cycles.
Mhm.
Roughly, you don't count. You simply roughly say it is happening about 7 times, 8 times. That is one thing. And the other thing is you can see when you come from the first cycle to the second cycle, whether you are more with the foot or more with the thoughts. And
Mm.
when you go from second cycle to third cycle, again, whether you are more with the foot or more with the thoughts. I'm not saying anything is good or anything is bad, but you get more information. When you get more information, we get better chance to analyze how the practice is going on.
Yeah, because I don't know, maybe it can be really like confusing or hard to like count this cycle, because maybe in 5 minutes, I will like think like 4 times and
Yeah.
like 2 times in feet. So
Yeah.
that's only in 5 minutes. So now imagine for like 40 minutes, like
Yeah,
how can I
that's
just
that's
count?
fine. No need to exactly count it as such, right? So in this manner, see how cycles are happening, and if no need to count, you simply say so many cycles.
Yeah.
And then you can see in these cycles whether you are more with the thoughts or whether you are more with the foot.
Okay.
So what's happening? Are you more with the foot or more with the thoughts?
Mm.
What do you say?
I'm more
So,
with the thought.
Yeah, if you are more with the thought, what it says is your attention is now going gradually beyond your physical process. Your mental process is opening up.
Yeah.
And then you can see the contents of the thoughts. And you have, of course, mentioned the contents of the thoughts, right? So like that, you can get more and more close to the physical and mental process, and you will have more information. So it's good that you explain.
Exactly.
So keep on practicing.
Yeah, exactly. That is what happening. Like you see the thoughts and you see like different like method the
You will have to unmute. You're on mute.
For example, a mind always, you have my voice now? For example, mind always want to make sense of things, or just like sometimes it's the habit to overthink, or like chasing some sort of thoughts over and over and over again, and things like that. You like observe and understand how the mind works. So as you said, yeah, I will do what you just said to me.
Yeah. Simply observe, and there is nothing wrong in thoughts coming, and so long as you observe. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thiruvan Saranai. Okay, so that brings us to the conclusion of the discussion. So who is going to chant the stanzas today?
I can do that, Bante. I've got them here.
All right. Okay. So since we have gathered a lot of positive energies from the practice as well as the discussion, so we will share with the rest of the world. So can I kindly request then Steve to proceed with the sharing of the merits, please?
May all Devas share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all other beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all beings share this merit which we have thus accumulated for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness and prosperity. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the dispensation. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect the teaching. May all beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, having shared this merit, long protect me and others. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly, I have done any wrong, forgive, O Master, O Victor, greatly wise. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly, I have done any wrong, forgive, O Dharma, to be seen here and now, timeless. If by deed, speech, or thought, heedlessly, I have done any wrong, forgive, O Sangha, practice well, the incomparable. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives, and may they be happy. And by the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise, up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise, up to the time I attain Nibbana. By the grace of this merit that I have acquired, may I never follow the foolish, but only the wise, up to the time I attain Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Blessings to all of you.
Everyone,
Everyone,
Saranai,
Saranai.
Bhante. Thank you
Everyone,
very much.
Everyone, Saranai. So I'm going to disconnect from here.